So let's get started. Welcome all of you. I'm Nipra from Creative Conscious. In case you don't know me, I'll just tell you what I do because a lot of you know me but don't know what I actually do. So I am a psychic coach and I am also a certified quantum energy healer, which means that I clear any energy blockages in your system, anything that's blocking you from going forward, or anything that's stopping you from achieving what you want in life. By clearing these energy centers, it helps you get to that. So I do that. I do design meditation based on your vibration. They're specific to you, again, so that we can get you to the altered state and get you to a position where you can manifest the life that you want to live. Okay, so that's in a nutshell about me. I do take a lot of classes too. And I'm planning to teach quantum healing to others. So that's in the books, yes. And Kinsey is like nice enough to actually join that, so that's great. I am here with Kinsey, and we met around a couple of months back, and that's how I came to know that she is actually a certified CBT coach and a emotional wellness coach, along with being a Reiki healer. She's going to be talking us about anxiety because Kinsey has gone through anxiety most of her life and actually found ways to heal herself, and is now helping people to do that. So she's been following this for like 3 years. She's very well read, as you could already gather from our talks, and she's had a lot of clients who've actually seen the effects of her healing. And I would let you guys see how good she is, and she's going to give you tips on how to actually find whether you're going through anxiety or not, as well as natural ways to get over it. So, hi, Kinsey, welcome, and please tell us about yourself, what brought you here, and what was your journey so far.
Yes, thank you. Thanks so much for the lovely introduction. And I just am gonna toot Nipra's horn here for a second, just because she's an amazing meditation specialist. She's designed one for me, and she's also an amazing healer. I'm a huge fan of her work, and it's so awesome to be connected with another woman who is so passionate about working collaboratively and really wanting to change the world in a positive way. So I'm really, really happy to be here with her. And I'm so grateful to all of you who have decided to join us tonight. So, yeah, I want to tell you a little bit about my journey and why I'm so passionate about overcoming anxiety. My journey with anxiety began when I was only about 3 years old and continued into my early 30s. And along the way, in that like almost 30 years that I was dealing with severe anxiety, I saw dozens of professionals, probably close to 2 dozen professionals, all of which incorrectly diagnosed or treated me. The majority of them who had the capacity to diagnose somebody diagnosed me as having depression, which is a common, for a lot of us with anxiety, if it's been going on for a long time, it's very common for us to develop depression as a side effect of having anxiety. So we just were never getting to the core of the issue. And when I say I saw lots of professionals, I mean I saw counselors, I saw psychologists, I saw psychiatrists, I saw social workers, I saw everybody I could think of, and I would see them for a few months and I would get a little temporary relief from doing talk therapy or whatever medication they would prescribe to me. But ultimately, I would go back through this cycle where anxiety would peak again and I would be back in the throes of this whole situation all over again. And it wasn't until I was in my mid to late 20s that I ended up discovering what anxiety even was. And I think I stumbled across it like kind of almost accidentally. I was just searching everywhere I could think of, like, what is wrong with me was kind of my mentality at that time. And so I was like, what's going on with me? And I found out anxiety and I was like, oh, well, I think I might have that. So I went to my doctor and I said, hey, I think I have anxiety. And they're like, okay, let's go through some tests. And sure enough, they're like, yeah, they diagnosed me with having generalized anxiety disorder and social anxiety disorder. And they were like, well, here's what I can offer you. I have some medication and we'll put you on that medication. And if you really want to, I guess I could refer you to a counselor or something. And I was like, this can't be. Like, this just can't be that's the only answer, right? Because the medication that they wanted to prescribe me was something that had been prescribed for depression to me before, which, it did give me some temporary relief, but it never solved the issue. And I just kept seeing my anxiety getting worse and worse as the years went on. So I started at that time, and now it's been about 8 years. I've been researching anxiety and all the different ways that we can treat it naturally and holistically, looking at us at the big picture. This is a whole person experience, right? Like, this is not something that's just a chemical imbalance. It is something that affects a lot of areas of our lives. And so it is through these like compiled tips, as well as my own continued education, that I have overcome and healed my own anxiety myself. And it's been 2 years now that I've been completely free of any kind of disordered anxiety or having to take any kind of medication for it. And it is because of this harrowing experience that I had with anxiety myself that now that I'm healed, I'm so deeply passionate and compassionate for people who are still dealing with it. And so that's really why I'm here today. I know I truly believe, that we go through challenging things. And a lot of the times that's because when we heal from it, it is now our opportunity to pass that wisdom and that love on to other people. So that's why I'm here.
Well, very well said, Kinsey. I believe that our pain is the healing that we give to the world, and you're doing a beautiful work by actually going through it yourself, devising your own methods, finding your own methods, and then applying it on people who are going through it. So no one can understand uh, anxiety better than you when it comes to healing other people, because you've gone through it personally, right? So getting back to anxiety, what is anxiety? Can you how is it different from depression? Because I remember you saying that people misdiagnosed you as depression. So how can we say the difference between anxiety and depression?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. Depression is more about this like lack of hope and lack of purpose. So that those are just like really summarizing it up. If I was to boil it down to a couple of things, it's more like I don't like to do the things I used to like to do. I don't know what I like to do anymore. And this is like a depression. It is the nervous system actually slowing down to a point that it is depressed. Whereas anxiety is like a hyperactive nervous system. And one other thing I want to, before I get into like some of the core challenges with anxiety, I do want to just talk really quickly about the prevalence of anxiety, because we have something like 18% of the adult population in the United States that is confirmed as having anxiety. Now, I will tell you that based on my own personal experience, as well as what I've observed with others, a lot of us don't even realize we have anxiety. We
Yeah.
live in a world where stress is just the constant, right? So a lot of us just think, oh, I'm just stressed. So um, I would say that it's probably a lot higher number than just 18%. And when we're looking at India, India has something like 14% of adults that are dealing with anxiety. So I'm just mentioning that because I know a lot of our viewers are also in India tonight.
Right.
So yeah, so the core challenges with anxiety, just kind of really summary level, how you can identify anxiety. And I'm going to go through these core challenges. And I will say that not every single one of them applies to every type of anxiety, but these are kind of like the thread that weaves through the various types of anxiety disorders. So the first one is feeling safe, secure, and a sense of belonging. Okay, so a lot of us are dealing with worries about our health, for example. This is about safety, security, um, and belonging. So a lot of us will struggle with this sense of like, do I belong, with other humans? How do I fit in here? So that's a really common core challenge in anxiety. Having a strong sense of self. Now, this is like having confidence. This is about knowing what your identity is, what your values are, what your needs are, how you fit into those things. So these are really common core challenges for people with anxiety as well. And this leads into also our ability to listen to our intuition. When we're dealing with anxiety, we're really struggling with listening to our intuition because we're constantly second guessing ourselves. Yeah, definitely struggling with opening up our intuition and understanding how it really functions. Did you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That is also because we are blocking our energy centers as such. Because when we are anxious, I think we give a lot of energy in just dealing with it, that we second guess everything. And when you said the sense of belonging, I have felt it for the longest time in my life that I don't fit. And I don't know whether it was anxiety or not. I know I suffered with the OBT, and you will go through it later. But yes, I have felt that a lot. But yes, go ahead with the types of anxiety that you wanted to discuss, right?
Yeah,
So,
got a couple more of those core challenges. So
yeah, okay.
then I will definitely get into the different types. Being accepting and non-judgmental towards ourselves, non-judgmental towards ourselves. So that whole saying of like, you are your own worst critic. Nobody knows this better than somebody who's dealing with anxiety. We are that whole thing about second guessing ourselves. We're constantly like, did I do this right? Not every one of them exactly, but lots of the second guessing and self-criticism. And along with that, then thinking positively. So a lot of times with a lot of the types of anxiety, we're thinking about worst case scenarios. We're thinking about the worst possible thing that could happen instead of focusing on, well, what if there was a better possibility that could come instead?
Yeah.
So thinking positively is definitely a challenge there. Slowing down and being present. So also like this, like gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. That's a really common mentality, and because of that, we're also then very focused on the future. Sometimes on the past, but a lot of times like the next thing. We're thinking about the next thing that we're going to do rather than what we're doing presently right now, right?
Yeah.
So the next thing, the next few days, we're thinking constantly on these things that are in the future rather than being present. And last but not least, sleeping well and regularly. So we see insomnia come along with anxiety very, very often. Not necessarily just the problem of falling asleep, it can also be staying asleep. So we wake up with night terrors, etc. Those are the core challenges that we see kind of running throughout the various types of anxiety that I will get into. Did you have anything you want to say before I jump into the different types?
No, I totally agree. And I like, as you were talking about it, I was just thinking parts of my life where I felt one or more of them. And I can, like I always said, I definitely felt that I don't fit in. Sleeping has been always a problem with me,
Mhm.
but it comes and goes. And probably this time it's not anxiety, it's just I just have to make it regular. But I do agree that when I suffered from OBT, I did have problems with sleeping, and I kept thinking, what's going to be next, what's going to be next. That future was always troubling, like you said. And that's a big challenge because you just keep thinking and being scared of the future, or being really anxious when what's going to happen next. So that's where all your attention is, and that really holds you back. So yes, that I agree with you. And go ahead, talk about what are the types of anxiety and how people can identify it, right?
Yeah. So there are 7 different types of anxiety that I'm going to explore today. And these are the like most widely recognized types of anxiety. The first of which is called generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. And this is recognized by having 6 months or more of persistent worry or tension. For some people, this is general, and it literally means general. They're experiencing tension on a regular basis. They're experiencing worry on a regular basis, and it can be about literally everything. And that's whether they're worrying about what they said and did earlier that day, or they're worrying about what is yet to come. This is just a very general thing. For others, generalized anxiety can be very focused. And the three primary things that it gets focused around for people with generalized anxiety are their family, their money, and their work. So they'll find that they're persistently ruminating and worrying and having a lot of tension around those particular areas in their life. So it can be extremely general, or it can be very focused on these particular areas, but it's called generalized anxiety disorder when they have had this focus, this worry and tension for 6 months or more. The next type of anxiety disorder is called social anxiety disorder, or SAD. And it basically boils down to the fear of embarrassment or the fear of judgment of others. Okay, so this is like being afraid of being in social situations, right? For me, I know I recognized this fear of eating in front of others. I didn't realize this, but like when I would like go to eat with my friends or whatever, my hand would be like shaking so bad that it was hard to like get the food to my mouth because I was so anxious about being in front of others. And like I was worried about doing something embarrassing. I was worried about talking in front of other people. And here I am now talking to you guys.
Right? That's what I was
Yeah,
wondering. From there to now. Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah. Yeah, so it goes down to that like fear of being embarrassed or being judged by others. And the next type is called panic disorder, and this is about having panic attacks. This is where anxiety gets so intense that you can like freeze up. You're having very severe anxious reactions, which I will talk more about what that looks like a little bit later. But what identifies it is having attacks that are repeated, meaning more than one attack, which can be unpredictable in nature for a lot of people. And it usually results in some kind of avoidant behavior because our brain makes an association like I had an attack. I'm going to use a personal example. I had an attack in a grocery store. So now I'm avoiding grocery stores at certain times because I'm worried about having a panic attack again, right? And this is how it flows into the next type of anxiety disorder, which is called agoraphobia. And that fear is the fear of having a panic attack in public. So the people with agoraphobia start avoiding more and more places over time. And that eventually, like in its most severe cases, turns out to be that they are afraid to leave their house because their deepest fear is somebody else witnessing me having a panic attack. Now I avoid all the various places that I may have a panic attack.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Next type is the one that you mentioned, OCD. So OCD is this reoccurrent or persistent thoughts or behaviors that cause anxiety, which we attempt to control through a certain behavior. And I'd love for you to offer your example, but I'm going to offer just a couple for a couple people. For people here. And one is like, let's say you're really afraid of somebody breaking into your house. So you hear of this example a lot where they're like, their behavior that they um, choose to try to manage their anxiety is check and recheck the lock, check and recheck the lock, check and so they'll have some kind of pattern that
Yeah.
they take on in order to try to self-soothe, and it's kind of like a coping mechanism, right? Okay, I've checked the lock 3 times, so that's got to be good enough, right? Another really common one is being really afraid of germs. And so people wash their hands and they wash their hands, wash and wash and wash. They wash so much that their hands are cracking, they're bleeding, they're dry, so really common. What was your thing with OCD?
Yeah. It's just funny when you say wash your hands, and during Corona times people are washing their hands
Yeah,
so it's kind of
right.
working out for them. But yeah, when I was a kid, I might be around 13 or 14, I was diagnosed with OCD. and something called anorexia, which is another thing. It's not anxiety, I guess. But in during OCD, I used to feel that there's an attacker always behind me, and so all the time, like you said, checking the locks, I used to go check behind the door or
Mm-hmm.
beneath the bed for some reason, like thinking that somebody might just appear and attack on me, which is kind of weird when we talk about it, but it was a true in the panic sense, because it made me so scared in the night, and just I just kept doing that all the time. It was so uncomfortable to get up in the middle of the night and check below the bed to see if somebody was about to attack me or if there was somebody lurking in there. Another thing was like I used to, and you must have heard this too. I used to feel that the things are not straight, like for some reason, and I used to adjust the clock or any
Oh,
painting. You
uh-huh.
know, if they're not perfect. They're not perfect. So yeah, that used to be there too. So that was pretty bad as I was growing up. But I think so. I also went through some kind of therapy at that time, and it kind of worked. Back in India, that time, people, anybody going through this anxiety problem, I'm talking about 90s, people used to think that the person is gone mad, and people were people were not that open, and they didn't realize that it's a problem. So just going to a psychiatrist itself was a anxiety. I mean, it was. I used to see all these. I mean, people acting a bit crazy there. So I used to feel that I don't want to be put in that jail there, and I don't want to be called crazy for that. So I guess that, and certain. I like you. I tried certain natural methods. I got into exercising and stuff like that, and slowly it just weaned away as I grew up, I guess. I just got over it. So that was my experience.
Yeah, good. Well, I'm so glad that you found some ways around that.
Yeah,
'Cause
otherwise
it's rough, you know. Yeah. I have a
yeah.
couple more types. Okay, for me to jump into those. Okay, so PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is also classified as a type of anxiety. It's probably one of the more well-known ones. And for those of you who don't know what it is when there is some kind of trauma that we've experienced in our lives, and then we experience like there can be some kind of trigger, and then we relive the emotional state of that original trauma. So great example, somebody coming home from war, they are just walking down the street, some fireworks go off or some loud sound, and all of a sudden they are back in the middle of gunfire. You know, like that's their emotional state. That's a really great example of post-traumatic stress disorder, and it is a type of anxiety. And last but not least, there is something a lot of people hear of, postpartum depression. There is also postpartum anxiety. And this is basically like it can be literally any of the anxiety types that we've already discussed here, but it is identified as its own type because it is following the giving of birth, basically. And it is generally really focused around this dread and worry about the baby. So it can be like just constantly worrying about what the baby's doing, how the baby's doing, what's going on with the baby, or even dreading like caring for the baby. You know, so
Yeah.
this worry and dread comes up there. That's really common, and also obviously sleep issues related to that persistent worry. And again, it can be any one of those types of anxiety, but it gets called its own type when, you know, somebody's given birth and then they're experiencing a type of anxiety. The last thing I want to mention about the types of anxiety is that people who specialize in this or like are talking about anxiety, they talk about anxiety as having high comorbidity. Okay, and this word literally, like in layman's terms, means anxiety attracts anxiety, right? So the idea here is that if you have a type of anxiety and you are not treating it somehow, you're very likely to develop additional types of anxiety. From my personal experience, I started off with having social anxiety and then developed generalized anxiety. and then developed panic disorder, which was starting to turn into a form of agoraphobia. So this is a really common thing for us to, like, if we're anxious and we're not working through our anxiety, we get more and more anxious over time. This is also why we hear doctors say, like, yeah, your medication is gonna, you're gonna have to take more and more medication over time, probably. Yeah. So that's the last thing I wanted to mention about the types of anxiety.
Okay, well, that's very informative. I did have a question on the postpartum anxiety that you spoke about, right? So I
Mhm.
know you said that it could be when the mother is very concerned about the child as to nothing should happen to the child. Uh, I don't know whether this can be called anxiety, but I've seen people, girls especially, very worried about not being able to go back to their original body type, or not being able to go back to work confidently. They lose their confidence, they lose their self-worth. Now I'm not sure whether it's anxiety or depression, but I kind of feel that leads to depression. Just wanted to check with you whether it's, is it any form of anxiety, or is it just
It
depression?
could be. I mean, the real thing is, like, is this worry, is it interfering with their quality of life right now? That is anxiety. Is your,
Okay.
like, mental state interfering with your ability to enjoy life right now because you're experiencing some kind of worry or tension? That's
Okay.
anxiety. So if you're worried about your body, if it's something you're thinking about, like, a lot, yeah, it's probably that, like, would be classified as one of these types of postpartum, anxiety.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I'm talking from personal experience. I was very concerned, and when I went back to work after 3 months of taking the leave,
Mhm.
I had to start from ground zero. Literally, I couldn't speak in meetings. I lost all my confidence. I couldn't work. I thought, I just lost it. Like, what I was before having the baby and after having the baby was totally different. Although, as time went, I gained back that confidence and I gained back that body. But yes, during that time, it was quite crazy. I didn't know what was happening with me. I might just be
Mhm.
going through mild depression or anxiety, but this was something that I was asking you from personal experience. So,
Yeah.
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 So I know after this, you are going to talk about the fight or flight response when it comes to anxiety and how this happens with people who are suffering from anxiety, right? So go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. The fight or flight response is really central to this whole experience of anxiety. And before I really get into that, I want to mention that anxiety does have its, like, beneficial qualities, and this is why the fight or flight response developed. And that is, anxiety can help motivate us towards things that we want, things that we need. Anxiety can help protect us from things that are actually physically dangerous to us, and it can also prepare us. So, like, you might get a little anxious before something because it's like, okay, your system's like, okay, it's time to prepare for this thing that you care about and this thing that you want, so it does have healthy functions, and this is why it existed in the first place. Protection in particular is how fight or flight, came about. So the idea there is our brain recognizes some kind of threat. Let's say back in the day, it was tigers and bears or whatever kind of predatory animal we had around at that time. The brain
Yes.
said, whoa, that thing's scary. That's bad. We definitely want to stay away from that thing. This is anxiety working appropriately, right? Stay
Yeah.
away from this deathly thing. And what the body does as a response to the brain saying, okay, I recognize a threat, the body and the brain starts releasing adrenaline and cortisol. What this does is it sets off a chain reaction in the body. The adrenaline and cortisol prepares your body to either fight that tiger or bear or to run for your life. So it tells your heart, pump faster, get the blood just to the primary muscles that have to fight or flee. This whole process is about making you stronger and faster for a short term so that you can get through whatever this perceived threat is. It causes things like our hands to get clammy and cold or tingly because our extremities are not as important in running or fighting for our lives. Our big muscles are, right? Our eyesight might change. We get a little different sensitivity to light. Our peripheral vision goes out, and this is because it's trying to focus your eye on the threat. You stay really, really super tunnel vision focused on what the threat is. Another one is like your stomach. So a lot of us will recognize getting the butterflies in our stomach. That's one of the first signs that you're having a cortisol and adrenaline reaction because, again, your body is saying, or your brain is telling your body, hey, your digestion is not important right now. All non-essential systems are shut down so that you can be your strongest, your fastest right now. So our stomachs will start clenching. We might just get butterflies. We feel more tension in our muscles. These are all things that our body is literally just doing to try to prepare us to protect ourselves. So it's a very natural response, and it originally it made a whole lot of sense. The thing is that today we're not running from tigers and bears, right? So our brain is natural at practicing this pathway of perceived threat response, and now it does it over things like paying our bills, having to go to social gatherings, things like that, right? So we have the same exact response to these other things because our brain says perceived threat, here's how I respond. So was there something else I wanted to say there? I think that's really what I wanted to say. That's how that functions, and what I want you to take away from that for anybody who's listening is like this just proves there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're having a very normal response to things. And it is something, you know, it's a trained pathway in your brain. Your brain is designed to get better at things that you practice, right? So your brain has practiced perceived threat and response. It gets better and better. This is why we get more and more anxiety over things, is because your brain is like, okay, I got this threat. I got to keep responding to it. I got to get faster at responding to it. I got to make her stronger or him stronger and faster. And that's something that can be retrained in the brain.
Right.
So anyway, that's the last thing I want to say about that.
You were saying something. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I said that was the last thing I wanted to say about that. Yeah.
No, so what you say is right, and it just goes on to explain that how strong our mind is and how it can control our body. So there is a lot of things that goes on in our mind, and you can see a right reaction based on what your mind is going through on your body. And the way you channel it with anxiety, you can channel it for getting manifesting something in your life too. So I just wanted to point out here that how strong our mind is and how we can train it for different things, like the way it trains itself to react to the anxious situation, you can train it to react to something good too. So just wanted to show there the power of our mind.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredibly powerful. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So our next section, you were going to talk about the core challenges. So that one you
We did
already
that.
spoke about,
Yeah.
right?
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. So coming back to corona and what we are having at this recent time with coronavirus, I do feel, and generally we do feel, that a lot of people, even in my healing sessions, that a lot of people are actually going through anxiety and depression, and maybe because they are staying alone, and they are realizing a lot of stuff. They are not getting to meet a lot of people. A lot of them might not even have families, so they're all alone and they get very anxious, or they're going through depression. So can we kind of talk about how it's increased and why do we see the increase during the corona times when obviously there's no social interaction? And what can we do about it? How do we even identify it?
Yeah. That's a really good question. So I would venture to suggest that people who are experiencing anxiety because of the coronavirus, because they're alone, they're probably becoming aware of something that was kind of already there. You know,
Yeah, I agree.
like I said, one of the core challenges is this fear of safety. So of course, the health threat is here. It's like health threat, right? And so we're brought back to this now seems like a very real reason to be in this state of anxiety. But I would really say you probably, if you're experiencing a lot of anxiety over this, you probably already experience anxiety and just may not have been very aware of it. But I do want to say this is why, like in this time where we are feeling like our health is a challenge, it's super, super important to get a handle on that anxiety. And the reason is, as I discussed earlier, all non-essential systems get shut down when adrenaline and cortisol are running through our body. So that includes our immune system responses.
Yeah.
When we are feeling anxious and stressed regularly, we get sick more often. And I truly believe that a great majority of our physical health, if not all of it, really flows from our mental and emotional wellness. So we can be mentally and emotionally well, our body responds positively to that.
Yeah, and I agree because when we say sick, so again, we are giving away a lot of our energy in responding to that fear, right? Anything that's stopping us. So where do you get the energy? The energy doesn't come back to your body at all. So you need energy to go through the normal system of your body, which you're kind of majorly giving away when you go through anxiety. And that's how you manifest disease or any kind of disorder. A lot of it is because of, again, dealing with certain issues in our life and giving attention, so much attention to that particular issue in our life, whether it's anxiety or anything else. And so it's so important for us to identify it and kind of take the necessary steps to heal it or get over it, because otherwise, if we kind of ignore it for a long time, it manifests as a disease because your body does not have the energy to deal with it. And again, energy goes where the attention goes, right? So that's what happens. And like you said about being alone and now realizing it, I feel that just to add to your point, I feel that before, people used to just distract themselves being busy in their life and not thinking about what they are going through, right? I have this, I have to go to work, I have to drop my kids here, I have to do this, and they used to just distract themselves. Now you're being given time to actually look inside yourself and find out what's going on with you. And that's why you might have anxiety for a long time, but now is the time you're realizing it. And it's a very good time. I wouldn't take it as a bad time, because this is the time you could actually incorporate some of the natural methods that Kinsey is going to talk about in your life, identify anxiety, and then do something about it. So, yes, so let's continue with how we could kind of naturally deal with anxiety, since you did mention that you took a lot of medicines and they really were not too helpful, right? So, just touching on that topic as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so yeah, I'll jump right into the medication since you brought that up.
Yeah.
I legally have to say if somebody's in a crisis situation, by all means, take medication, but recognize, and this is really important, recognize that it is not going to solve the core of the issue. It might temporarily, relieve some of the challenge for you, but it is not going to solve it. And that's why I'm going to, discuss some of these other tips because, yeah, you really have to get into the core of the issue if you want to overcome anxiety. And the number one consistently recognized therapy is cognitive behavioral therapy. Of course, there are some others, but this is the one that gets mentioned first and foremost on any institutions that study and specialize in anxiety, cognitive behavioral therapy. Why? Because I mentioned our brain has that ability to rewrite those pathways. Cognitive behavioral therapy is all about rewriting those pathways. So it is about getting in there and recognizing the thoughts and the behaviors that keep anxiety going in that same loop, the same pathway. This is about like getting into the beliefs, the thoughts, the behaviors that are ineffective for anxiety. I'll share from this, there's what I would call the 3 C's, that is catching the thinking, challenging the thinking, and changing the thinking. So a lot of times with us with anxiety, we aren't even aware that we're thinking something that's causing the emotional state of anxiety. So that's the first step, becoming aware. What are you thinking or believing about the situation? And now that you're catching that thinking, how can you challenge it? So let's say you're assuming the worst case scenario about something. Like, what if this happens? Okay, one, notice you just said, what if this happens? What are you actually thinking there? Catch that. You're assuming the worst case scenario. So challenging that. What is the proof that that's the worst case scenario, that this worst case scenario is going to happen? What else could happen? And so you start challenging this thinking, right? And as you challenge it, you're actually engaging the subconscious. This is, you start going in deeper and deeper into your own mind about it. And when you're in these deeper states of your own mind, you have the opportunity to change the way that you think about them. This is why other therapies are not helpful for anxiety, or a lot of other therapies, or like talk therapy is not helpful, because talk therapy is going to be like, yeah, so that's an irrational fear, and you can say that to somebody with anxiety, and they're like, I know. Thanks a lot for telling me that I'm anxious about something irrational. Thanks for making me feel like a jerk, for being, so you have to kind of get into these deeper layers and start, taking it apart. What is the proof for this? What is the proof against this? And as you engage this, you start being able to see, oh, there is another way of thinking about it. And you have opened up the capacity to do this. Now, once you are engaging yourself in this catching therapy, this catching action, is when you start being able to offer yourself opportunities to have different responses to things. So we have to become aware first, right? Then we can choose to have a different response to something. And this is how we can enhance, with cognitive behavioral therapy, we can enhance our own emotional regulation. We become aware of the feeling that we're having. We start catching what we're thinking about it. We start being able to take apart what we're thinking and change it. So cognitive behavioral therapy, that is rewriting your brain, and it is an amazing therapy that helped me immensely, and I've seen help others a lot too. So next, did you want to add anything, or shall I jump into the next one?
No, I have never been in experience with CBT as such, but it sounds very interesting, and probably I'll get to know it from you later on. But seems like you have kind of studied it, and that's what you've been using on people, and you're seeing a lot of results with it as well, right?
Yeah. I went on to, after, realizing that that was the therapy that was like the most consistently recognized, and going to somebody who actually, used it on me, I went on to become certified as a cognitive behavioral practitioner. And it really does help. It really does help people get to that deeper thinking that helps us change the behaviors that we have in response to anxiousness.
Okay, so it totally gets you out of anxiety once you follow it, is it? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it does take some time, right? We're talking about, like, think in my case, right? I had 30 years of practicing this pathway, right? This pathway. let's just say this is one particular pathway about anxiety, and I've practiced one for 30 years. So as we're starting this, it's like, okay, I start this pathway and it's okay, no, I keep, so it does take a little time in practice, right? It's not an overnight thing.
Okay.
But it does actually, help us do this. And for me, some of the things were immediate, right? Like we can have
Mhm.
these really aha moments over this work. But for the most part, we kind of have to practice, right?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And that must have helped you the most, and that's why you're so passionate about it, right? So,
Yeah. I mean, I can't, yes, I would say it probably did help me the most, being able to challenge my own thoughts,
yeah.
being practicing being aware of my emotional states. But really, everything that I'm going to continue talking about, I've used all of this stuff and it's all been extremely helpful. I kind of went for it all,
Yeah, that's
so
pretty
it's hard to
well.
say what thing exactly did it the most for me because again I really believe this is a holistic thing. It is an all purpose, all life area affecting kind of thing. So
Yes, and the best part of it, it gets to the root. And I'm not saying not to take my medications. That's not what my intention is. But it gets to the root and helps you eradicate from the root rather than suppressing it, which most of the medicines kind of do when it comes to anything for that matter, not even anxiety in general, right? So, uh, identifying it and taking it from the root is so important because it can come in other shapes of form again until you heal it from the root. So
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So another great tip, this really helped me a lot, and it makes a lot of sense. Exercise, okay, but not just any exercise. I'm going to recommend a couple different kinds of exercise I especially think are helpful. Why
Okay.
exercise though? Because our body has done the fight or flight response. The body wants to work it off,
Yeah.
wants to run or it wants to fight. That's what the body wants to do in order to clear out the cortisol and the adrenaline. So exercise is super good at clearing that stuff out of your body and helping you feel stronger in the interim. Now, I particularly love yoga. Okay, I'm a huge fan of yoga. This is because it's like a 3-for-1. You're getting exercise, you're practicing mindfulness, you're using your breath, getting integrated into your own body, and it is excellent energy work as well. If you have a good yoga instructor, that's fun. And besides yoga, I also think dance and walking are really good ones because again, you're kind of like you're having to be aware of your body, and with these, especially if you're integrating this attention to your feet when you're walking or attention to your feet when you're dancing, super good for anxiety because of this whole, and from energetics, right? We're talking about challenges in the root chakra because this is our footing, our grounding, our sense of safety, our sense of security. So working on that is really good. And I know you have somebody that you want to recommend on YouTube, right? Didn't you have a yoga instructor?
Yes, yes, like she mentioned, most of it I already do. I practice yoga, dance, as well as I walk a lot. But my all-time favorite is Ali Kaminova, and I can give you the name for whoever is interested. So I've been practicing her yoga for almost like 5, 6 years now. The best thing about it is she has all kinds of yoga for anxiety, power yoga, vinyasa yoga. In fact, when I was pregnant with my daughter, for all of 9 months, I followed her yoga, and my pregnancy, which was supposed to be pretty high risk because of whatever I was going through, was totally smooth, and I had no issues with my legs, or I was working till the very last day of giving birth to my daughter, and everything was so smooth. I think it was because of yoga, because one thing, it helped me to not overthink the whole risk. I channelized my attention into something more productive than thinking about how bad it can be. And when you move your body personally, I feel that. your energies are distributed in the right way, and there is a blood flow, and everything is very earthy and grounded. You feel very grounded when you do that.
Yeah.
So although exercise is very important, guys, I totally recommend any kind of exercise, but yoga especially, I feel that it's a mind body thing. So I felt the anxiety or that anxiousness, whatever I had because of pregnancy, that kind of melt away along with the physical exercise that I got. And so Ali Kaminova is someone I really recommend, and I know you wanted to recommend someone else too, right?
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Yoga with Adrienne.
yeah.
That's what, if you look her up as Yoga with Adrienne, she's so fun. She's
Mm.
funny. She's kind of nerdy. I love that. And she just has such great energy, and she's so attentive to the mindfulness that goes into this and the marrying of the breath. Like, okay, we're always moving with our breath, and we're always thinking of our body as one solid moving piece, right? All interconnected. And as you said, she really fosters that awareness that we're carrying energy all the way through our body. And so, yeah, I'm a huge fan of her. I love that, this is something you can do at home, regardless of, you could have just enough space for a yoga mat, and that's all you need. And it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yes, and I highly recommend. So if you ever feel that thing, guys, try these two yoga instructor, and you might identify with some others. I'm not sure, but these two are our personal best, and you can always contact us if you have questions about that. So yes, what is the next method then, Kinsey, apart from yoga?
Of course, mindfulness and meditation. Okay, so I'm going to just talk about that generally, and then I want Nipra to talk a little bit more about it because she's really the specialist when it comes to this. But from my understanding and my experience, mindfulness and meditation is really about practicing this awareness of presence. It's about being here now rather than being in the future. A lot of times, again, like I said, we're struggling with the what ifs and the thinking about the things from the future, the things from the past. So it gets you really present. That's really, really, really important for us to practice. And also it helps us with another thing that we see in cognitive behavioral therapy, which is about being in the observer mode. So this is this idea that you can witness yourself. You can witness yourself experiencing an emotion. You can witness yourself thinking certain thoughts, right? Instead of being overwhelmed by them, right? So a lot of times we're like, oh my God, this, all these thoughts, all these emotions that I'm having. You can actually start practicing through mindfulness and meditation, this stepping outside of that and looking at it. Okay, there's that thought, watching it go, or there's that emotion. Okay, I'm just going to let that pass through me. So that is another really great practice there. And this is about becoming aware of and accepting our thoughts and emotions, right? So, and recognizing that they are something separate from us, right? So, mindfulness and meditation are really awesome for that. And again, these really address some of the major core issues that we see in all of these types of anxiety. So, I want Nipra to talk about her meditation because, as I said, she's really awesome. She's made a meditation for me that has helped me immensely. It's not been about anxiety because but what she did personally connect with me and like made me an amazing, amazing personalized meditation. So tell us about meditation and your take on this, Nipra.
Sure, and like you covered a lot about being, and I just wanted to add to that before I go into the core meditation, being an observer to your thoughts. That is so important because in meditation, most of the meditation that I design, it's very important to detach yourself from the situation and think of yourself as a third person and observe that, okay, this person went through it, it's sad and it's okay. That helps you kind of detach. And meditation is as such is taking you to an altered place. Now let me tell you this, that lot of the top sportsmen, a lot of top personalities actually practice meditation. They get into the altered state because they have to give their very best when it comes to performing, right? And that has really helped them. Because again, meditation takes you to a level of brain activity called the alpha and the theta level, and helps you detach from your past or anything that's taking your energies away, and bring the energy back to yourself so that you can create a future that is not distorted by your views of the past, or by the views of the society that you have kind of added as you grew up, and whatever misconceptions you had and whatever beliefs you have. It's kind of taking you away from that, and kind of bringing your energies back so that you can use that energy in a very efficient way. And that can be done through meditation. And it's a lot of people have seen the effects of it, and they've seen how it's kind of changed their life, because it's very important for us to get out of the past present cycle where we just keep giving our attention to the past and acting based on what's happened with us in the past. So again, taking our attention away and getting into that quantum field, because quantum meditation is something that I design, and I kind of take you to that altered state where you will kind of disconnect from everything you are or everything that you have been. So it's creating a new self for yourself, and we all want to do that, right? We want to kind of become the best version of ourselves, and
Yeah.
and do not let anything come in the way, any negative thoughts come in the way. So meditation has personally helped me a lot. I have kind of learned this meditation from Joe Dispenza. He's a scientist, and people have cured cancer. And if you you can always Google him. There's a very good book on that called Becoming Supernatural, where people have cured their cancer using meditation. I'm not kidding. So it is so powerful. So please take a look into it and see. Even start small. I know a lot of people come and tell me, "Oh, I can't meditate," but yeah, guys, start small, and for sure in the beginning your thoughts will wander, and let them wander. Just but perseverance is the key. As you persevere, someday you will get into that level, and then you'll see a whole lot of a difference, and you'll see that things come to you rather than you going behind anything. All these opportunities actually come to you. So yes, I'm kind of distracted from anxiety itself and getting into manifestation, because that's kind of my key area. But yes, it's definitely very helpful in meditation especially. So I can go on talking about it forever, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop.
You had a mudra, didn't you? Did you want to tell us about a mudra? That's great for, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So I'm also a certified Mudra healer. For those who don't know what Mudra is, it's a hand gesture that we use to kind of clear our energy center. So it's not any random hand movements. The science behind it is we've got sensory nerves in our hand that kind of sends messages to the brain based on how they are pressed, and then sends messages to your particular energy centers based on what your hand how your hand is. So that's how it helps you unblock that energy center. So this is a quick mudra you can try. I know that anxiety, if a lot of you don't know about energy centers, that's fine, but it's connected to a root chakra or the base of our spine. Okay, and when the base of our spine is blocked, we literally become immobile. Like literally, we feel like our life is stopped and we're not able to do anything. So, root chakra is a very important chakra that kind of needs to be unblocked. And the mudra that I'm going to show is for the root chakra. Do it between 1 to 5 minutes. So, it's not going to take you a lot of time. It's just like 5 minutes of your time in a restful position. And all you have to do is take your pinky finger and
Ring,
your
ring,
ring
ring finger.
pinky finger and your ring finger, and press it to the thumb and hold it like this in a restful. Yes, yes. So it's pretty easy, and if you have questions you can always message me. But pinky and the ring finger to your thumb, and this is specially for your root chakra, which can help you with anxiety. and just stay with it between 1 to 5 minutes. You don't even have to meditate, but don't do anything else. Just be in a very restful position, and you will see the immediate effects. This is just for, immediately overcoming any negative thoughts, or you'll see that once you do this for 5 minutes, your system kind of stabilizes itself, because
Yeah.
again, it's all connected to the brain and to the energy centers, and it helps you in some way to kind of calm your thoughts when such thoughts come into your
Yeah.
mind. So yes, that is one
Yeah.
of the mantra I would definitely ask people to follow if
Yeah.
you want a quick.
That's really good because like one of the core challenges, like I said, is that sense of belonging, the security, safety, and that is all that root chakra and that hand mudra. That's really good for that. Um, so yeah, that's often a really common blocked one for those of us with anxiety.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure. I want to offer a couple of tips about mindfulness, especially related to anxiety. Um, so the first one is about like scanning your body and noticing tension where you're keeping it in your body. This can be when you're anxious, but I also encourage you to just do it. You would practice just being aware of your body. So that is mindfulness, is awareness, basically. Awareness in your body. Where am I carrying the tension? I shared a little video, some of you might have seen it earlier today. I said that when I was driving, I would get really anxious. I'd become aware that I was anxious. I'd notice that I was carrying the tension in my shoulders and my chest, and you just choose to let it out. So it's not about, the natural response is to go, I'm anxious, relax, relax, relax. That doesn't help. It makes the brain more anxious because you're telling it to do something it doesn't think it can do right now. So you become aware and then you just kind of let the tension out. That's
yeah,
the first one that I wanted to offer there. And the second one is slowing down walking or mindful footing. So this is also about that root chakra and really just like it's so simple. It's just about whether you're sitting on the, let's say you're sitting in a meeting, you're sitting at your chair or whatever. And if you're feeling wound up, you're overwhelmed, you're anxious, whatever, just put your feet on the ground and notice the way that your feet feel on the ground. It's really that, like, it really can be that simple,
yeah,
to help you reconnect with, like, okay, I'm here right now. It makes you become more present and feel more grounded, just putting your feet on the ground and being very aware of, like, this is how my foot feels on the ground right now. For
yeah.
me, this was a huge tip when I mentioned, maybe I didn't, grocery stores. I used to have panic attacks about going to grocery stores, especially when they were busy. And the way that I got over that was going to the grocery store. And, what I used to do was like, okay, I got this thing. So what's the next thing? I was like always thinking about what the next thing was that I had to get. And so I was really focused on that next thing, that next thing, that next thing. And what I made myself do instead was like just really hyper focus on how I was walking, just walking through the grocery store. It was like, okay, this foot and this foot, like, you know what the next thing is on your list. You just look at the one next thing. That's it. And you walk over there
Mm.
slowly, slowly walking over there, just being very present. And when you get that next thing, you slow it all down. So this whole slowing it down thing is a really great mindfulness practice for anxiety. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say about mindfulness. The last tip, we touched on medication, and the last tip I wanted to mention is acupuncture is another one that's really commonly mentioned as a good treatment for anxiety. In particular, there's been some great studies that have shown it's especially helpful for PTSD. This is another great form of energy work. It does impact our physical body, but it is a form of energy work. And the concept there is to get the energy flowing through the meridians, which are like smaller chakras, essentially, smaller energy centers in our body. So the concept is very similar to doing the kind of like energy healing that Nipra or I do. But yeah, I also tried acupuncture. I found that was really great. If you want to try acupuncture, I highly recommend that you talk to the person ahead of time, you know, and just be like, do you know how to do acupuncture for anxiety? Because good ones will know what you're talking about when, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I know what to do. You know, whereas others might be like, what for anxiety? Like, don't see
Yeah.
that person. See the one that knows what you're talking about when you say that. But yeah, that's definitely something that can be really helpful as well.
Yeah. So I've never tried acupuncture, but I've heard a lot about it. Again, I think they're kind of finding points in your body that sends messages to your smaller energy centers, right? As you mentioned. So yeah, that's good. And I guess we can move on to our next session, section. Yeah, section about what you have to offer. Guys, we are also kind of giving some freebies away to, so stay till the end. It's only for the people who joined live, by the way. So talk about your offer, Kinsey, what you are about to offer to the people, as well as I wanted to mention one more thing is Kinsey on her page, she gives tips and tricks as to how to naturally get over anxiety, like she mentioned just now. So do follow her page, and she'll give you all the information once we are done with this, and you can go follow her page and kind of
Yeah.
find that
Thank
too.
Yeah, I'm trying to offer more and more information for free. Again, my biggest motivation in all of this is I want to help people. You know, it's be
Yeah.
great to make money from it. I mean, I gotta make some money from it at some point, but really, my biggest motivation is helping other people because I want to pass the blessing along, right? So,
Definitely.
yeah, on my work, okay. I touch everything that we've been talking about here and what I do as an emotional wellness coach, practice CBT. I work with people about exercise, finding the kind of exercise that works for them. I help them find the best forms of mindfulness that'll work for them. I do offer a meditation. And of course, I'm going to be telling clients like, you want more than this basic meditation that I've made for you. Go see Nipra because she's amazing. um, and my work covers all of that, plus a couple of other things. The only things I don't cover in my work are acupuncture and medication, obviously. So besides those things, we also go through things like the general balance of your life. So we'll look at like how much of your attention and energy are you placing onto your work versus your relationships versus your money versus your spiritual alignments, your life purpose, etc. We look at that overall balance and we start addressing where can we get more balance in this whole situation here. We also look at what kinds of relationships, the quality of relationships that you have, tips around focusing more of your energy and attention on the relationships that are supportive to you based on your anxiety. We also go into things like diet and sleep as well. So it's really a full holistic situation. And the package that I wanted to share with everybody here is I have developed this package that is meant to really get anybody who's dealing with anxiety or any emotional wellness issue on to their empowered journey, because this is a program that's designed specifically to help individuals get there. And it is called Emotional Wellness Self-Care and Self-Discovery 101. This includes 6 1-hour sessions, coaching sessions directly with me. It includes 3 30-minute Reiki healing sessions, and it includes one personalized, detailed chakra reading report where I go in and I tell you, I assess and also write this out for you for your reference, what each chakra is doing. Is it underactive? Is it overactive? How is this showing up in your life right now? Like, what behaviors are you demonstrating that show you that that's what's the balance issue? And then I offer very specific, detailed tips to balance those across food, across activities, and across affirmations, as well as how to use affirmations, because there are some very effective ways to use them and some less effective ways to use affirmations. So that chakra reading is included in that package, as well as one guided meditation to help get your vibration higher. And this whole package is valued at $840, and I am offering it for $500.
Wow. Yeah.
That's what I wanted to offer. And my freebie that I'm putting out there is a free 30-minute consultation with me to get you started on your emotional wellness journey. Whether, and really there, it's about where are you? Where would you like to be? How can I help you right now? And I will, I'm going to, in every one of these, offer the tip that I think is going to help you the most right now. My goal isn't about selling you. My goal is about servicing you. If I'm not the right person for you, I want you to go find the right person for you. So it's really just like about how can I help you and what can we do to get you feeling better. So yeah, that's my freebie for people who have joined us here today. 30-minute free consultation.
That is awesome, freebie, and a very good offer, especially because it's a complete package. So it's not just one kind of modality. You are combining a lot of modality, lot of things that have worked for you into this package. And who can be a better coach than someone who's already mastered it through the years, right? And let me tell you this, that Kinsey is a very intelligent individual. She is very empathetic. She will make sure that you come out of it and you kind of live your life that you're meant to. You completely come out of anxiety. That is my guarantee to you. So if there's anyone who's interested, or you know anybody who's interested, please go ahead, share it with your friends, and I would highly recommend Kinsey for that. So, yes, thank you, Kinsey, for the 30 minutes consultation. That would kind of get them started and kind of get them to know you and what you have to offer, or what questions they want to ask you, or if you could give them any tips in those 30 minutes consultation, right? So that's
Absolutely.
great. And she will include all the details as to how to reach her. So once we are done with this session, she's gonna do that.
I just popped it into the little chat right
Oh,
now. Book your free 30 minute and a little link. So
okay.
anybody who's interested who wants to do that right now, feel free to go ahead.
That's awesome. Uh, uh, the 30-minute, I mean, I wanted to offer a free healing for anybody who's not done free healing with me, a free quantum healing. Uh, if you've not already done so, you are welcome to ping me, and we can get that done. You can kind of feel the difference right away, because quantum energy healing is very powerful. So, if not done it already, you can just message me, and that's free
Yeah.
for people who are in live, fully in live.
Please do it. Like, seriously, please do it. She's amazing. She totally blew my mind. I'm used to Reiki myself. I've had it done by other people. And Nipra absolutely blew my mind in this free 30-minute. This is actually how I met her. She offered up a free 30-minute, and I was like, okay, I'll try this. Like, I want to know what this quantum healing is. That sounds cool. And she totally blew my mind in that 30 minutes. So definitely take her up on this offer. She's an incredible healer. Yeah.
Thank you, Kinsey. Uh, I'm so glad I offer this free healing, and I get to meet such nice people, a lot of healers using this, and I'm so fortunate to meet her. I feel like she always supports me, and we've actually become friends in the process, and I'm so glad to have met her. And nothing is coincidence. I guess everything is synchronicity in our life. That's what I believe in. This is
Yeah.
meant to happen. I'm really glad it happened.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you.